a 10, 11, 12, and a 13, a 4-year span that this model car could have been. I wonder how many of those cars between a 2010, 11, 12, and 13 Hyundai were registered and owned by drivers, let's say within a 10-block radius or a 20-block radius. That was one of the most popular cars because of the price point and everything. I would wonder if you subpoenaed DMV and you got all those records, how many of those cars were neighbors' cars? How many cars were on the blocks? That's reasonable. Those were all questions I would want to know if I was a juror. Those were all questions I would want to know. Well, how do you know that's just not a neighbor driving? How can you tell me that that is the alleged getaway driver? How can you definitively tell me that from a 5-second clip of this car passing in front of somebody's home security camera, where you can't even tell me for sure it's that year car. You could only tell me it's that model, which at that time there was 4 years it could have been, 10, 11, 12, 13. And for them not to, on that alone, not to have reasonable doubt. And that was just one instance. And I was watching a YouTube clip. It's from a show called Wild About Trial. And there was an attorney on there, Robert Sheehan, and he explained the concept of reasonable doubt in real layman's terms, which resonated with me, and it gave me a great visual of how one should determine reasonable doubt. I'm going to try to just paraphrase, but his story was basically when you go to a game, any game, hockey game, baseball game, before you leave for that game, you take the tickets for the game off the counter and you put them in your inside jacket pocket. Now you go down to the game, you get out of the car, you get ready to go into the stadium, and you reach inside your pocket to feel for the tickets to make sure they're there. And he said that's reasonable doubt. And think about how high that threshold is. Think about how many times you do that. You go somewhere and how many times you check over and over to make sure you have those tickets. So for you not to ever check and not stick your hand in the pocket, that means they met the threshold of convincing you there is no reasonable doubt to convict these defendants. I mean, the informants alone on that specific case, they were drenched with reasonable doubt. Unreliable, stories getting all twisted, stories inaccurate facts. Many of the informants, when they would come on, they would tell stories that did not corroborate one another, the exact same story. So if they brought on 2 different witnesses to tell their version of one of the charges, their stories didn't line up, and that happened. And again, all I kept thinking in my head while I was watching this go on was, we're going to beat this. The truth is going to come to light. They're going to see they're innocent. For nothing else, I know my father's innocent. So I knew that was without a doubt in my mind. But taking myself out of the picture, I was saying, if nothing else, they have to make sure all of these defendants are convicted beyond a reasonable doubt. And the government did not meet that threshold. I just explained to you about the alleged getaway driver. How do you convict somebody of murder based on a car that you don't even know that that's his car? And the other thing I think that they weighed heavily on was the cell site technology. And I gave a whole rundown on a prior episode. It wasn't that in depth, but I'm going to bring on a guest that's really going to blow your mind about how inaccurate cell site is. And what disturbs me is when you realize that weather conditions, if a cell tower is having issues, all these different elements, and I don't know them in and out because I'm not an expert on it. That's why I rely on the experts to inform me, so then I have an idea of knowing if these things are legitimate or not. But when you learn the facts of these things and you see how many different factors can affect the results, how does that not cast reasonable doubt? Why automatically do you just take whatever the government is saying as gospel?